The sleek Coalition vessel emerged from the darkness of space, its pearlescent hull reflecting Earth's blue glow as it approached the planet. Ambassador Tejo stood on the command deck, his four-fingered hands clasped behind his back while he observed the viewscreen with careful attention. "Final approach to human diplomatic zone," announced the pilot, her voice calm and measured. Tejo nodded, feeling the weight of this moment. The Coalition Council had spent decades observing this species from afar before deciding contact was appropriate. Humans had not yet developed faster-than-light travel, but their rapid technological advancement suggested they soon would. "Remember," Tejo addressed his crew, "based on all observations, these humans are primarily creators and artists. They appear peaceful within their current development stage." Scientist Hannah looked up from her data pad, her large eyes blinking thoughtfully. "Their music alone contains more variety than 12 other Coalition species combined," she noted, "and their visual arts show remarkable emotional range. My analysis suggests a species with deep capacity for empathy." The Coalition's first meetings with Earth's leaders went smoothly. Humans reacted with appropriate wonder but not fear. They asked intelligent questions about galactic civilization and offered tours of their great museums, concert halls, and universities. On the third day of diplomatic exchange, Hannah visited the Louvre in Paris alongside human cultural attaché Dr. Reeves. "This painting," Dr. Reeves explained, gesturing toward a large canvas, "is nearly 500 years old. The artist captured both technical perfection and emotional depth." Hannah studied the artwork, fascinated by the use of light and shadow. "Your species creates with such passion," she remarked. "The Coalition values this quality highly." While touring a symphonic performance in Vienna, Tejo found himself moved nearly to tears by the harmonies. "How do you create such beauty from simple vibrations in air?" he asked his human guide. "We've had thousands of years to practice," the guide replied with a smile. Back on the Coalition vessel each night, Tejo and his team transmitted detailed reports to headquarters. "These humans focus their energies on creation rather than destruction," he wrote. "Their wars appear limited to their pre-space history. They show every indication of meeting Coalition standards for peaceful integration." What the Coalition team failed to notice, however, were the subtle signs underneath human hospitality. They didn't recognize the military precision behind the ceremonial guards. They missed the strategic thinking in human games like chess. They overlooked the combat techniques hidden within human dance forms. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Coalition Intelligence Officer Minho delivered troubling news to the High Council. "The Vrax Empire has conquered the formal Hot system," he reported grimly. 3 more Coalition worlds now sit within striking distance of their fleet. The eldest council member sighed. "The Vrax expand again after centuries of containment. Their timing is unfortunate with our discovery of Earth." "Should we warn the humans?" another council member asked. "No," decided the council leader. "Earth sits far from Vrax territory. Let these gentle creators join our community without fear. We will protect them as we do all peaceful species." As Tejo prepared to offer humanity formal membership in the Galactic Coalition, Hannah finalized her cultural assessment. "Humans represent a remarkable addition to our collective," she wrote. "Their artistic contributions alone will enrich Coalition culture immeasurably. While they have historical records of conflict, they appear to have channeled such energies into creative pursuits." On Earth, leaders from all nations gathered in the Great Assembly Hall built specifically for this historic occasion. Ambassador Tejo presented the formal invitation, which was accepted with enthusiasm and appropriate ceremony. "We welcome humanity to the stars," Tejo announced. "Your peaceful nature and creative spirit make you ideal members of our community." The human representatives smiled and applauded. None corrected the ambassador's misunderstanding of their fundamental nature. None mentioned that peace was merely one face of humanity, the face they chose to present when possible, but not the only one they possessed. As Coalition ships prepared Earth for integration into galactic society, distant Vrax scouts observed the proceedings with interest. They added Earth's coordinates to their database of potential targets, noting the apparent lack of significant defenses. The Vrax Empire had never been stopped in its expansion. They saw no reason these newly discovered humans would change that pattern. They would learn their mistakes soon enough. The human settlement on Proxima Centauri begleamed under the red dwarf's light. 5 years after Earth joined the Galactic Coalition, New Hope Colony had grown from a small research outpost to a thriving community of 8,000 people. Its wide streets and elegant buildings showcased human architectural skill, with gardens and art displays at every intersection. Inside the Coalition Security Office overlooking the main plaza, Security Chief Doyen scrolled through another report on his screen and sighed. "Another warning about Vrax movements?" asked his assistant. "The third this month," Doyen confirmed, setting aside his datapad. Earth's military liaison seems convinced the Vrax are targeting this sector. "And you disagree?" Doyen walked to the window, looking out at humans going about their daily business. Children played in a fountain, while artists painted the scene. Musicians performed on a small stage nearby. "Look at them," he said. "The humans are creators, not fighters. They have basic security forces, yes, but nothing that resembles a true military. The Vrax would gain nothing by attacking here." Later that day, Doyen drafted his response to Earth's concerns. "After careful review of available intelligence, we find no credible threat to New Hope Colony. These humans have no significant military capacity that would interest the Vrax Empire. Their colony focuses on scientific research and cultural development." His report went to Coalition Command along with his recommendation to maintain minimal security presence at the colony. 2 weeks later, Colony Director Soman hosted a dinner for visiting Coalition officials. Among them was Commander Juwu, who oversaw defensive operations in the sector. "Your settlement is impressive," Juwu told Soman as they enjoyed the meal. "I particularly appreciate your focus on sustainable development." "Thank you," Soman replied. "We're quite proud of what we've built here. I understand Earth has requested additional defensive systems," Juwu noted. "Do you share their concerns?" Soman hesitated. "I believe in preparing for all possibilities. Our history suggests." She was interrupted by an urgent message delivered to Commander Juwu. He read it quickly, his expression darkening. "Please excuse me," he said, standing abruptly. "I must return to my ship immediately." In orbit above Proxima Centauri, the Juwu stared at the long-range scanner showing 5 Vrax warships approaching the system. "Time to arrival?" he asked his tactical officer. 18 hours at their current speed." Juwu considered his options. His single cruiser could not stand against a Vrax battle group. The colony had minimal defenses, a few orbital platforms, and a small security force with light weapons. "Send word to Coalition Command," he ordered. "Request immediate reinforcements." His communications officer shook her head. "The nearest battle-ready force is 3 days away, Commander." Juwu made his decision. "Begin evacuation protocols. Priority for essential Coalition personnel and key human administrators. We can transport approximately 500 before the Vrax arrive. And the other 7,500 colonists?" his second-in-command asked quietly. "We cannot defend them," Juwu said, regret heavy in his voice. "The settlement must be considered lost." When Director Soman received the evacuation order, she immediately called an emergency meeting with her staff. "Commander Juwu is preparing to evacuate Coalition personnel and a small number of colonists," she informed them. "He believes we cannot defend against the coming Vrax fleet. So we abandon our home?" asked one council member, her voice rising in anger. "Not necessarily," Soman replied. She activated a display showing a schematic of the colony. "Contact these individuals immediately. They all have military backgrounds from Earth." On his ship, Juwu prepared evacuation shuttles while monitoring the approaching Vrax fleet. His tactical officer approached with a confused expression. "Commander, the colony is refusing our evacuation protocol." "What?" "Put Director Soman through immediately." Salmon's face appeared on screen. Behind her, the colony seemed unusually active, with people moving with purpose rather than panic. "Director, you must begin evacuations immediately," Jiwoo insisted. "We've chosen a different path, Commander," Salmon replied calmly. "You're welcome to remove your coalition personnel, but we will be staying." "This is suicide," Jiwoo said. "You have no defense against a Vrax battle group." Salmon smiled faintly. "I think you'll find we're not as defenseless as you believe. Coalition records about humanity are incomplete." As Jiwoo watched in bewilderment, the seemingly peaceful human colony began to transform. Art installations retracted, revealing defense turrets. Gardens were cleared, exposing landing pads where civilian transports were being converted to combat configurations. Throughout the colony, former soldiers retrieved weapons and equipment from hidden caches. "What is happening?" Jiwoo whispered. "We're revealing humanity's other face," Salmon answered. "The one we hoped we wouldn't need to show again." Minji strode through the colony command center, her voice calm but commanding as she directed the transformation of New Hope from peaceful settlement to fortress. 6 hours had passed since the Vrax fleet was detected, and 12 remained before their arrival. "Mining Team 3, I need those excavators repurposed immediately," she ordered through her comm unit. "Remove the digging arms and mount the pulse cannons we've unsealed from Storage Bunker 5. Around her, former soldiers, who had been living as artists, teachers, and farmers, worked with practiced efficiency. They had maintained their skills in secret, training in hidden facilities beneath the colony's surface. "Status report," Minji called out. Her second-in-command, Shono, approached with a datapad. "The outer defense perimeter is 70% complete. We've converted 8 transport vessels into combat-ready gunships. Civilian evacuation to the underground shelters is proceeding as scheduled." Minji nodded. "And our coalition observers?" "Commander Jiwoo remains in orbit. He's still recommending we evacuate." "And the others?" "Most coalition personnel have returned to their ships. Observer Kihyun has requested permission to stay and document our defense efforts." Minji considered this. Grant his request. It's time the coalition learned who we really are. Kihyun stood at the edge of the colony's main plaza, recording everything he saw. Where yesterday there had been markets and musicians, now there were barricades and weapons emplacements. The coalition scientist could hardly believe these were the same humans who had been classified as peaceful creators in all official reports. "Excuse me," he called to a woman configuring what appeared to be a mining laser for combat use. "How did you learn to do this?" She glanced up. "Basic military training. Most of us have it, even if we never served actively. But coalition records show no significant military presence in human society." She smiled grimly. "We showed you what we wanted you to see." A loud alarm blared, and Kihyun's comm unit activated with Minji's voice. "All personnel, the Vrax fleet has accelerated. Estimated arrival now in 3 hours. Implement Defense Protocol Alpha immediately." The woman stood. "You should get to a shelter, observer." "I wish to continue documenting," Kihyun replied. She shrugged. "Your choice, but stay out of the way." In orbit, Commander Jiwoo received the updated arrival estimate with growing dread. His ship alone could not stop the Vrax, and reinforcements remained days away. To his surprise, rather than panicking, the humans had denied evacuation and were preparing to fight. "Commander," his sensor officer called. "The colony is activating previously undetected defense systems." On his view screen, Jiwoo watched in astonishment as sections of the colony's decorative outer ring slid apart, revealing concealed weapon emplacements. Mining vessels transformed into makeshift fighters, their industrial equipment repurposed for combat. "How is this possible?" he whispered. There was no indication of military capability in any assessment. When the first Vrax ships entered the system, they encountered not a helpless colony, but a prepared defensive force. Human gunships launched from hidden bays, executing complex evasive patterns that confused Vrak's targeting systems. On the colony surface, Minji directed the defense from a command center disguised as a cultural museum. Sector 2, activate mining charges now, she ordered. As the first Vrak's landing craft approached, explosive charges hidden in the colony's mining zones detonated in sequence, creating a devastating chain reaction that caught 3 enemy ships in its blast. Ki-yun watched in stunned silence as humans transformed everyday tools into weapons. Farmers used knowledge of terrain to create deadly traps. Engineers repurposed communication arrays into jamming systems that disrupted Vrak's coordination. "This is impossible," he murmured, recording everything. "These tactics, they're not improvised. This is executed with military precision." When a Vrak's cruiser broke through the orbital defense and landed troops on the colony's edge, Minji personally led a counterattack. Ki-yun followed at a safe distance, watching as the colony security chief implemented ambush tactics that confused and divided the Vrak's forces. "Fall back to position 3, Minji ordered her team. "Implement hammer and anvil." The humans retreated in apparent disorder, luring Vrak's troops into a narrow passage between buildings. Once the enemy was committed, hidden defenders emerged on both sides, catching the Vrak's in devastating crossfire. After hours of fierce fighting, the remaining Vrak ships retreated from the system. The colony had held, though not without cost. Many buildings were damaged, and recovery teams were treating wounded defenders. Ki-yun found Minji in the command center, reviewing casualty reports. "I must contact Coalition Command immediately," he said, his voice urgent. Everything we believed about humans was wrong. Minji looked up. "Not wrong. Incomplete. Your historical archives," Ki-yun continued, "they must contain thousands of years of warfare studies that we never detected." 10,000 years, Minji corrected. "War was humanity's first art form. We hoped we'd move beyond it, but we never forgot it." Ki-yun's transmission to Coalition Command was brief, but would forever change how the galaxy viewed humanity. Urgent update required to all human assessment files. These are not simply artists who occasionally defend themselves. These are warriors who chose peace, until now. General Sunwoo stood before the Coalition Defense Council, his expression serious as the holographic display showed movements of Vrak's forces across 3 sectors. 1 month had passed since the attack on New Hope Colony, and everything had changed. The traditional Coalition defensive posture is fundamentally flawed, Sunwoo explained, moving markers on the display. "You position your forces in predictable patterns that the Vrak's have studied for centuries." High Commander Talman frowned. "These formations have served the Coalition for generations." "And you've been losing ground to the Vrak's for generations," Sunwoo replied calmly. "Predictability is death in warfare." The human general had been hastily promoted after Coalition Command reviewed Observer Ki-yun's reports from New Hope. Now, reluctantly, they had given him authority to reorganize their defense strategy. "Our first priority is Arcturus Station," Sunwoo continued. "Intelligence suggests the Vrak's will target it next. If we lose that station, 3 Coalition worlds will be exposed." In the engineering bay of the Coalition flagship, Engineer Haijin worked alongside human weapons specialists. Her delicate hands manipulated advanced particle technology while the humans suggested modifications. "Your weapons are technologically superior to anything Earth has developed," said the human weapons expert, "but your targeting systems are too rigid." Haijin looked up, puzzled. "The precision is exact. How is that a weakness?" "Because precision without adaptability becomes predictable," the human explained. "The Vrak's know exactly how your weapons function and have designed countermeasures." Under her guidance, the engineering team began modifying Coalition weapon systems. They introduced random frequency variations, unpredictable firing patterns, and decoy targeting signals, chaotic elements that the orderly Coalition engineers found deeply uncomfortable. "This feels wrong," Haijin admitted as she tested a modified defense turret. "There's a deliberate imprecision to it." "That's exactly why it will work," the human replied with a smile. The Vracs won't know what to expect. At Arcturus Station, Coalition and human forces prepared for the coming attack. The station had been restructured according to human defensive principles, critical systems decentralized, backup command centers hidden throughout the structure, and fake targets designed to draw enemy fire. Jawan, a Coalition medic, watched the humans with fascination. In the medical bay, they worked with gentle efficiency, treating injured personnel with compassion and skill. Yet these same individuals would soon transform into fierce warriors. How do you switch between these two modes so easily? He asked the human doctor who was setting up a field hospital. She paused her work. They aren't separate modes. The desire to protect is the same impulse that drives both healing and fighting. She smiled sadly. We fight hardest for what we love most. When the Vracs fleet emerged from hyperspace, they found not the standard Coalition defense formation, but a seemingly haphazard arrangement of ships and defensive platforms. On the Vracs command vessel, Commander Rissos studied the display with confusion. What strategy is this? There's no logical pattern. Perhaps they've simply lost discipline, Commander, his second suggested. The Coalition has always been weak. Rissos wasn't convinced. Proceed with caution. Implement standard approach pattern. The battle began with a Vracs advance using their classic three-pronged assault formation, a strategy that had broken Coalition defenses countless times before. But this time, Coalition ships responded with erratic maneuvers that left Vracs gunners firing at empty space. They're using human tactics, Rissos realized too late. Adaptive and unpredictable. When the Vracs attempted to target Arcturus Station's main reactor, they found themselves firing at a decoy. The real power systems were hidden behind layers of misdirection. When they adjusted their strategy, the Coalition forces adapted instantly rather than following their usual predictable response patterns. In the midst of battle, Jawan's medical unit received the first casualties. He worked alongside human medics, marveling at how the same hands that had fired weapons moments before now gently treated wounds with delicate precision. A wounded Coalition officer grabbed Jawan's arm. The humans, he gasped. They fight like nothing I've ever seen. Through the viewport, J1 could see human-piloted vessels executing maneuvers that Coalition pilots had considered impossible. They used asteroid debris as cover, created impromptu trap formations, and sacrificed tactical position to protect Coalition ships. They fight as though the battle is personal, Jawan observed. For humans, all battles are personal, the human doctor beside him replied without looking up from her patient. We don't fight for abstract concepts, we fight for people. After 18 hours of battle, the Vracs fleet retreated, having lost nearly half their ships while inflicting minimal damage on Arcturus Station. It was the first major Coalition victory against the Vracs in 70 years. In the battle's aftermath, General Sunwoo addressed the Defense Council again. This was only the beginning, he warned. The Vracs will adapt to our tactics. Then what is your recommendation, General? Asked High Commander Tallman. Sunwoo smiled grimly. We continue to adapt faster than they can. Humanity has been perfecting the art of warfare against ourselves for millennia. Now we'll use that knowledge to defend the Coalition. As Coalition forces celebrated their victory, the Vracs Emperor received the battle report with cold fury. For the first time in generations, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. Retries. The Vracs Emperor himself had come to oversee the final destruction of the Coalition. His massive command ship led a fleet of over 300 vessels as they approached the Tav Ceti system, home to 5 billion Coalition citizens across 3 habitable worlds. The Coalition forces are gathered at the system's edge, Emperor, reported his chief strategist. They appear to be arranging in a standard defensive formation. The Emperor's lipless mouth curved in what passed for a smile among the Vracs. They returned to their predictable patterns. Good. The human influence was temporary. But Admiral Chuno, commanding the combined human Coalition fleet from the bridge of the flagship Defender, had something very different in mind. All ships maintain position, he ordered calmly. Let them think we're falling back to traditional tactics. Beside him, Coalition Captain Mincio looked nervous. The Vraks outnumber us 2-1. Admiral. Numbers aren't everything, Juno replied, studying the tactical display. Do you know about the Battle of Salamis? I'm not familiar with it. Human history, 480 BC, a smaller Greek fleet defeated a much larger Persian force by choosing the right battlefield and forcing the enemy into a narrow channel where their numbers became a disadvantage. As the Vraks fleet approached, Juno gave the order. Execute Operation Salamis now. The seemingly standard coalition formation suddenly broke apart. Ships rearranged themselves in what appeared to be chaotic patterns, while civilian mining vessels released clouds of mineral dust that obscured sensor readings. What are they doing? Demanded the Vraks Emperor. Before his officers could respond, the human coalition fleet had separated the Vraks formation into isolated groups. What had looked like retreat was actually a carefully planned trap, drawing Vraks ships into a complex system of gravity wells and asteroid fields where their numbers couldn't be fully deployed. In the heat of battle, Juno implemented strategies from Earth's greatest naval commanders. Nelson's breaking of the line, Yi Sun Sin's turtle ships, Nimitz's carrier warfare, all adapted for three-dimensional space combat. We've lost contact with Battle Group 3, reported a Vraks officer, voice rising with alarm. Battle Group 7 is surrounded. The Emperor rose from his command chair. Impossible. Concentrate fire on their flagship. But the coalition ships moved with unprecedented coordination, protecting each other while targeting Vraks communication systems. Months of joint training had merged coalition technology with human tactical thinking. After 6 hours of battle, nearly half the Vraks fleet was disabled or destroyed. The Emperor, facing defeat for the first time in his long life, gave the order to retreat. We will return with a larger force, he vowed as his damaged command ship limped away. Coalition and human ships didn't pursue. They remained in defensive positions around Ta Siti's worlds, crews exhausted but victorious. In the aftermath, Admiral Junho toured a coalition medical ship where wounded from both sides received treatment. He found Dr. Yuna, a human physician, working alongside coalition healers to save a badly injured Vraks officer. You fight them, then heal them, asked a puzzled coalition nurse. The fighting stops when the battle ends, Yuna explained, carefully stabilizing the Vraks' unusual circulatory system. Healing never stops. 2 weeks later, on the coalition homeworld, Elder Yunji addressed the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from 87 species gathered to hear her speak about the changed relationship with humanity. We made a fundamental error in our understanding of humans, she began, her ancient voice carrying clearly through the chamber. We observed their art, their music, their buildings, and categorized them as gentle creators. This was true but incomplete. Holographic images displayed scenes from recent battles alongside human cultural achievements, a symphony orchestra beside a military formation, a hospital next to a defensive line, surgeons and soldiers working side by side. Humans create with passion and defend with equal passion, Yunji continued. They fight fiercely for what they cherish. We mistook their love of peace as inability to wage war, when in truth, they wage war precisely because they value peace so deeply. In the gallery, Ambassador Tejo, who had first made contact with Earth, watched with newfound understanding. How had he missed the signs, the precision in human movements, the strategic thinking in their games, the themes of sacrifice and protection in their stories? Today we recognize humanity's true nature, Yunji concluded, not simply as creators or warriors, but as protectors who will create beautiful things and fight to preserve them. The coalition has gained not just allies, but guardians. In the months that followed, humans took on new roles throughout coalition society. They established military academies, teaching defensive strategies while emphasizing ethical combat and minimizing harm. They built hospitals alongside fortifications. They painted murals on defensive bunkers. When 3 Vrax prisoners of war were released as a goodwill gesture, they returned to their emperor with troubling news. "The humans are unlike any species we have encountered," reported the senior officer. "They treated our wounds even as they prepared for our next attack. Their kindness was as unnerving as their ferocity." The emperor dismissed their concerns, but doubt had been planted. For the first time in centuries, the Vrax Empire halted its expansion. On Earth, children still learned art and music and science, but now they also learned that their greatest strength lay not in hiding their warrior nature, but in directing it toward protection rather than conquest. Humanity had found its place in the stars not despite its complex nature, but because of it.